Hey everybody, Mr. O'Donnell here, walking you through 10 steps on how to shoot live events. Live events can consist of a couple different things. Primarily, though, more than anything else, you're probably going to be at the Rockland High School Theater shooting some of the events that are there. And those consist of the shows, musicals, dance shows, and such. But there's other live events that many of these tips are going to apply to. If you're going to shoot graduation, if you're going to be able to shoot something in the cafeteria, if you're going to be going to one of the elementary schools, if they ask us to come film something. A live event is important because, first off, if we're there shooting, it's somebody wants us to come. Somebody has hired us to come and film their event, not necessarily for our sake or for things that we need, but this is something that they want for their side. So we're shooting for posterity. We're shooting for them. Oftentimes, we're even shooting to be able to make some funds, to be able to afford the equipment that we use in this room and all the other places. But anyway, so it's important, these live events that we're doing. So these 10 steps are going to be able to help you prepare. Step number 1, scout your location. Prepare about where you're going to be shooting. So if you're going to be going to the theater, and many of you may be saying, well, I've been to the theater a bunch of times, or I eat lunch in the cafeteria. Still, before you go to the event, why don't you go down to those areas and think about it, not necessarily from if I eat there, or if I'm going to watch a show, but if I'm going to shoot from there. Scout that location. Bring a notepad with you. Take some notes in your phone and think about things about where I'm going to set up the cameras, or where even electrical outlets are if I'm going to be able to plug in. So just be prepared about the venue where we're going to be. Step number 2 is arrive early. Now, oftentimes we say get to a place early just because it's good form. You don't want to be late to a job. You don't want to be late to school. But in this particular case, it's essential to be able to get there early because, one, the event's going to start on time, and if you miss the beginning, we're in trouble. But another reason is that you can get shots at the beginning of it, shots that are sometimes forgotten about. And these are people waiting in line. This could be backstage. This could be the performers warming up, people who are setting up the event. These are a lot of that B-roll kind of footage that you're going to want to be able to include, because although when you get into the editing bay and you start putting this all together, you may think I'm just going to go from the start to the end, but if you could have some stuff at the beginning, it's kind of a warm-up, it really brings a level of professionalism. So think about when you get there early, the idea of establishing shots, even so much as just the walk in. So if you can be able to get your camera even before you get into the event, if you're going to the high school, let's say, you're in the parking lot, get a shot of you walking into the theater. Get a shot of just a slow pan. Get people who get their feet coming in. Get some tight shots of tickets being passed and such. So think about that in terms of arriving early and getting establishing shots. We're on number 3. Number 3 is called know the agenda. Most of the events that you're going to do, they're going to provide something, some sort of plan, some sort of agenda of what that particular item is. Pick one of these up, pick one up early, and check it out to be able to see what's going on in the show. What that's really going to allow you to do more than anything else is to be able to plan and prepare what is going to be happening. When is intermission? What is the final song? Also, which people to kind of be able to focus on. Grab one of those, and also a really nice tip to be able to do is shoot the agenda as some of that establishing shots as well, to get a little bit of background footage and be able to set the scene about what the event really is. Step number 4, shoot like a ninja. And a ninja means a couple different things. It's how you look, and it's also how you act. So if you check out OD here, I am in all black. And all black means the idea like how a ninja is invisible, that they hide into their surroundings. That's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to hide and camouflage yourself into the surroundings. And wearing all black is the best way to be able to do that. You don't want to stand out. And then not necessarily about what you wear, but how you act and behave. It's interesting because you got to film, but you can't just put yourself all the way in the back of wherever you're at and wear dark, because sometimes you're gonna have to get up and get better shots. But if you're dressed in dark and you're respectful with where you are and how you move, not to block other people's views, but that does mean at times that you have to be able to get in front. You have to be able to get some better shots. So you'd be able to, again, looking at when we talked about the venue, think about where you're shooting, where you're gonna put your place, and be in the best location to shoot, but don't obstruct and make anybody even sort of think back at the performance and go, yeah, but that camera person got in the way. Shoot like a ninja. Here we go. Step number 5. Step number 5 is about what you're listening to. Check your audio. I can't tell you how many times videos that I've done and many countless videos that kids of ours have done in which that we did not have the audio properly set up. And you're thinking, well, at least we got the video. A video with bad or no audio is useless. And it is heartbreaking. I cannot tell you, to be able to go to somebody who's putting on a show and say, hey, your final show, the senior, the last time they were on stage, and you wanted us to document that, and we lost it. We don't have it. That is a tough conversation. You got some guilt on you for that. Hands down, the culprit almost always is something wrong with the equipment, and not necessarily something faulty, but that the equipment wasn't adjusted or set properly. Probably the biggest one is on your camera. Is it set to internal or external audio? So check it. I can't emphasize enough the thing. And the best way to be able to check it is to be able to record something, take the SD card out, pop it in onto a computer, hit play, and see if you hear it. And then also you can be able to see, not necessarily if you got it, but also the audio levels. That sometimes you may have, if you're doing a shotgun mic, let's say, some of those audios might be really loud if you're shooting at a place where the music is really loud. So check your audio. Number 6 is shoot with multiple cameras. The reason why we shoot with multiple cameras is a couple reasons. The primary one is if you're going to be doing a live event, if you set up a camera like this on a tripod and this is what you're going to be using alone and it doesn't move, that's going to be a pretty boring, or the term is called a static shot. It's not very dynamic. It doesn't change very much. Think about it if you're watching a TV show and the camera is only really just in one place the entire time. You want to be able to see some different clips, some different shots along the way. And so that's going to require you then is to be able to shoot with a couple different cameras. This gives you the opportunity when you go back and edit your piece, it gives you the opportunity to be able to kind of weave in and out from a one camera to the second camera. So what you need to be able to decide is where your cameras go, and this comes of course from sort of scouting the venue, and what you're going to do with those cameras. Generally, if you're going to be doing a performance like what I'm going to show you here with the shooting one of the theater shows, you're probably going to want to set up a camera like this one here, which is going to be set up in the back, and that will be a static, means you leave it alone, wide shot. Check your audio and all that sort of stuff, and then once you set the thing into record, then you just let it go. Then what you're going to be doing throughout it is you're going to be using your second camera, and your second camera is where you are going to be giving us different clips along the way. How to be able to do this now, you're going to find some major issues is how can you be able to have this and this be exactly the same, particularly with one thing, and that is the audio. Because you only want to be able to have, you don't want the audio levels to change. And no matter how good you set the microphones on one or the other, you don't want to go from one video to another video and go with this and have the audio also change. You're going to want to have one audio track that stays the same. So from these two different cameras, you're going to pick one that's going to remain as your master audio. Most likely, you should probably always do it from your static shot from this particular camera. You can also use an example of one of these. These are a digital audio recorder. This gives you the opportunity to be able to set up a third source, and this one will only record audio. It's not necessary, but it does gives you the opportunity to get a very nice audio, but that's something you're going to want to set up ahead of time. So then when you go back and think about how to be able to use these two particular shots. This one is you're going to set it and forget it, basically. This one you're going to walk around and keep recording. But the key to this, to be able to make the audio work, is you want to start both of these, both of them recording before the performance begins, and then you need to give it a cue. Okay, a slate is what they call in the business, those clappers that you go clap that you guys have seen before, most likely, and that is a visual that you can see when the shot starts. But more importantly than that is what you're going to see when you edit. You're going to see an audio spike whenever you clap that together. And then if you match up the audio spike from this camera to this camera at the exact same spot, everything is going to match. Now, what's kind of the interesting point is, if you're going to, here's the problem. If on this camera, you're walking around and you're going to keep hitting start and stop and start and stop, you're going to have to sync that audio many, many times, which is going to be a nightmare. So when you start recording on the one, on your wide, and then you record here, start them at the same time, clap your hands. That's the most basic. Clap them together, make one loud noise. That way you can sync up the audio. Then this one, you never want to stop recording. You're going to want to record this thing nonstop. And whenever you cut the audio, whenever you cut your clip from one to the next, it's not going to matter because that master level is going to be synced the entire way. Maybe confusing a little bit now, but trust me, you're going to want to be able to do this when you get into the editing part of it. So remember, start them roughly at the same time. Give yourself an audio marker like a clap and let them keep recording. For example, now what I'm going to do here at the show here at the high school, there's an intermission. So you may want to be able to, good idea is to be able to stop your recording at intermission and do the whole thing a second time. So you'll actually sync the thing twice, but it'll be much easier than do it multiple times. Number 7, beware of battery and SD card issues. What I mean by that is, let's say like right now I'm leaving the event because did I happen to mess up and did the SD card fill up? Did the battery run out and I have to run out in intermission, or I got to be able to find an electrical outlet because I hadn't prepared enough? These are some things you need to be careful of. So check them, plan how long your event is, and you want to be able to have some extra batteries and an extra SD card. I hope for the most part that you're going to be able to just stick with the one. So just plan to make sure that whatever you have is filled to begin with. Okay, last couple of tips here. Number 8, you got to cover the whole event. I know when we talk about like going to sports, you don't necessarily have to go for the entire thing because you just need to be able to get a flavor of it. You need to get some of the highlights. If you're going to shoot a live event, you're going to need to be there for the whole thing because like we said in the beginning, you're shooting this for somebody else and they're going to want to be able to see it in its entirety. So like we said, you have to get there early, stick around, shoot the final thing at the end. Make sure that you wrap up and get it all. And speaking of getting it all too, you also need to remember that, hey, if there's an intermission, that's when you may want to be able to take a break, but you also need to be able to shoot some stuff there as well too. So shoot the wrap up afterwards, shoot the intermission, find those opportunities when you can get some really kind of nice other footage that isn't necessarily just the activity. That kind of footage is really going to help create a sense of flow for your segment that you're producing. Number 9 is a tough one. It's all over. What do you do next? You got to get your stuff and get home. But one of the things you got to be careful of, and trust me, I've done this a lot of times, is forget something. So check all your stuff. Inventory, remember the stuff that you brought, and double, triple check it by the time that you leave. Because if you forget it, most likely somebody is not going to say, oh, hey, that cord or that battery or that bag or whatever must have belonged to the person who was shooting at our event, so let's try to contact them. Most likely that's not going to happen, so you need to be able to get your stuff. I can't tell you, I've lost quite a few batteries and cords, and replacing them is not fun and is also not that cheap too, so try to remember all the stuff that you brought and take it with you. Last one is number 10, and for number 10 is, more than anything else, I want to be able to tell you that it's not, I can give you tips, but more than anything, it's just going to take practice. It's like being on a sports team or getting better at anything. You're going to need, it's going to take time. So don't think you're necessarily going to go out on your first attempt and you're just going to create some amazing footage. It takes time. One of the things, the tip I can give you is to not necessarily react. You want to anticipate. And what I mean by that is be able to kind of think about what's happening or what's about to happen. So follow the story, follow what's happening, and try to think what's going to next, go and follow that. So if you're doing that 2-camera shoot, if you see one of the main characters walking off the stage, I wouldn't follow that main character because they're going off for a reason. As they walk off, be able to kind of think about where they're going to next, try to be able to get to that next spot, anticipate what the next thing's going to be, and try to be able to get that. This is often just a skill, though. It's going to take some time. For those of you who are familiar and comfortable with what you're shooting, it's going to make it that much better. So for example, if you're a theater kid and you've seen this show before, can you imagine how much better you're going to be at anticipating what is going to come next? Because it's really going to help you get some great shots. But like anything, it's just, like I said, it's a skill that's going to take time. Anyway, I hope you take these 10 tips, watch this video, and keep these in mind. Also, not a bad idea to print out the document that goes with this to keep this while you're at the event so you can double check your stuff. Good luck, and hope you have some success shooting your live event.